Oh, that's embarrassing. I called it. Friday, December 4th, regular class. We're going to get farther into Shadow Club today. Focus. Let's see, tie game was penguins because I wore penguins every day. Try not to even make it tough. Book report's doing 4 days. So those of you putting it off, you're running out of time to put it off. You do have a homework assignment. The beard thing, it is a tie. My wife has stepped in and she put in $22 to have me just shave the whole thing off because apparently she doesn't like bearded me. But then the kids have rallied and now we're at a tie. So I guess I'll have to flip a coin unless my other classes bring in money. For your homework, you'll have to go to the Shadow Club page, and on there's one that says novel homework, and then you'll just download that one. You'll have 4 options. You can do the extra options for extra B points if you want. Or you can download the ebook version. Good to go from there. We will continue to find our connections between the people in the book and the people in our own lives as we get farther into it and meet more of the people. And we're going to meet a bunch more of the people here coming up. See, Shadow Club we did get to. Let's see. What point of view is the story being told in? First person. Being told by who? Jared. Nice, well done. Who is Jared's best friend? Cheryl. And who is Cheryl's brother? Randall. Let's see. And who is it that Cheryl hates? Rebecca. And why does she hate Rebecca?
Because
there you go.
She ones up her.
Ones up her at what?
Singing.
At the singing thing. And then who is it that little Rebecca gets compared to?
Shirley Temple.
And there's the Shirley Temple, the adorable little curly-haired child. And then, of course, she grew up to be a not-so-adorable person.
Actually, she's a pretty cute old lady.
She's a pretty cute old lady for a troll. That's okay. That's what she's did. They're going to talk about in a moment that a kid goes running on the football field from the top of the football circle to the other one. So what it just means is when he goes running, he goes from this little top area there all the way down to there. So he's just going to go running across this football field when he takes off running. So we're talking about that part. All right, let's see, where do we leave off with you guys?
Page 17.
It was page 17. Oh yeah, and we met Austin Pace. And who's Austin Pace? The guy that Jared hates. And Jared came up with a nickname for him. And what's his nickname?
Lost in Space.
Lost in Space. Good stuff from there. We are at that first full paragraph on page 17 as we get into it and learn from there. And yeah. But I could run. And when you're a fast runner, there's nothing like that feeling as you pick up speed. Actually feel your body accelerate. And you realize that the wind isn't a wind at all. It's just you cutting through the still air like a bullet. There's nothing like that feeling when you know that this is what you do well and nobody can take it away. Nobody but Lost in Space. And he took it away real good. Not so much by beating me, but by purposely making me feel like I wasn't worth a thing. He knew exactly what to say to squash me beneath his big toe. Things like, maybe it's your running shoes that make you slow. Or maybe next year your legs will grow longer and you'll have a fighting chance. Or maybe he'd just look at me with that silent gloat in his smile after beating me in yet another race. I don't know why, but it seemed that Coach Schuler always put us in the same races. We would take first and second. But when Austin and I were racing, there were no places, only winner and loser. And I was always, without exception, the loser. Once, I was the best. One year, when Austin's father, who's a professor, took the whole family traipsing around South America for a whole year. I was in 7th grade. And what grade is Jared in now? Ninth grade. Right. First year on the junior high school team. And once again, because their junior high is what, 3 grades?
No. 7th, 8th, 9th.
7th, 8th, and 9th. That I finally got to see that finish line ribbon, to feel it pull across my chest as I crossed the line. I was hot then, the hero, popular, everything I could have wanted. Then Austin came back like I knew he would. I remember the beginning of 8th grade, before the coach knew him, we were lined up for time trials, and just before Austin was to go, he turned to me and gave me that smile, the smile that said, "You're nothing, Jared Mercer, and I'll prove it." The coach yelled, "Go!" Austin took off and blew my 60-yard time sky high. He beat it by almost half a second, which might not seem like much, but races are lost by hundreds of seconds. From that moment on, I was a backseater again, the generic kid living in the bigger-than-life shadow of lost in space. But this time it was worse, because I tasted what it was like to be a winner, and Austin was determined to make sure I would never taste it again. "You take these things too seriously," my father would say. "So he's faster than you. Big deal. I'll bet there are things you do better than he does." But there weren't, and my father just didn't understand. It wasn't just that he was faster than me. It was that I was second, and nobody on this earth could care less about runners-up. On that first morning of 9th grade, I watched Austin from the stands. He knew I was there. He had to know. I was the only one in the bleachers. He ran around and around the dirt track in the bright white running shoes that never seemed to get dirty. It looked like he was going to go until the first bell rang. But then he stopped, stepped inside the track, and went to the highest point of the oval. That's what I mean by the highest point of the oval of the track. I knew what he was going to do. He did it all the time. His school bag sat there at the tip of the oval track. He took his blue digital chronometer, the one the coach gave him after last year's final meet, and set it to 0. You guys know what a chronometer is?
That time
Yeah. It just means a stopwatchy thing. Then he took his running shoes and socks off and stared at an invisible spot in front of him, straight across the middle of the field, to the other tip of the oval. He took his starting position, clicked the chronometer, and took off on his bare feet. It hurt to watch his speed. He tore through the grass like a racehorse on turf and was at the other end of the oval much too soon. He looked at the time his chronometer had logged, and then he pretended to notice me for the first time. He waved. We're at just the very bottom of page 19. Okay. He waved, and I waved back, and he stretched out his legs and went to get his shoes, then came by the bleachers. "What's up, Jared? You have a good summer?" "Pretty good. What about you?" "Great," he said. He put his foot up on the first bench and stretched his calf muscle. "You like my running shoes? They're Aeropeds. Best running shoe made. Cost almost $200. I nodded. "Maybe if you had these shoes," said Lawson, "you might be able to come close to giving me some competition this year, huh?" "Maybe," I said, which wasn't what I wanted to say. I won't tell you what I wanted to say. "Been working out?" "Yeah, I have been. Every spare moment I had." "That's good, man. Me too. Every day. All summer. Up at Junior National Running Camp. Hey, guess what?" "What?" "I might qualify for the Junior NCAA Championships." "Really?" "Uh-huh. Tough competition, but my time now is averaging a quarter of a second faster than last year's 60-yard qualifying time. So I've been trying to get it even lower. My dad says if I qualify, then next year he'll find me a private coach and train me for the Olympics." He smiled that "I'm better than you" smile at me. "So, what have you been up to?" "Me? Oh, I just went to European Runners Training Camp, where you run cross-country up and down the Alps all day long with famous Olympic athletes." "Really?" I sighed. "No. Actually, I just hung around and worked at Burger King making hamburgers. And it's hard work, that Burger King. Builds muscles in your fingers." "I'll bet," said Austin. "You know, I was the youngest one they ever had working at that Burger King." "Yeah? That makes sense. I mean, who else are they going to get through the stupid flunky work but a kid, right?" I didn't say anything after that. "Well, I got to go change," said Lawson. "You coming to the first track meeting this afternoon?" "Of course." "Well, get there on time," he said, smiling that crocodile smile at me. "They're picking team captain today. I wouldn't want you to miss that." He turned and ran toward the locker room. Crocodile smile. Wait 1 second. Do you guys know what a crocodile smile is?
No.
I do crocodile smiles apparently all the time. If you've ever seen a crocodile, it always looks like they're smiling because they have just their mouth has a little roar and sort of goes up. And so a crocodile smile is when you make a false smile at someone where you don't really mean your smile, and actually you probably mean that you don't like them, but you smile it anyway. That's a crocodile smile. you'll see me do crocodile smiles with you guys quite a bit when you make poor choices. And I'll say, is that the choice you really want to make? You're like, you're smiling, but I feel cold on the inside. That's because it's a crocodile smile. Like, that smile doesn't reach your eyes at all. That's how he sort of gives me. He's like, well, I hope you make it today. You're a jerk. And so he's sort of giving him that look. Oh, so I got to mark that. Crocodile smile. What I do to kids all the time. Crocodile smile. Team captain today. Already that smoldering feeling was growing. Austin had done it again. In 5 minutes, he had put me beneath his $200 running shoes and flattened me like a cigarette butt. You ain't got a chance against him, said a voice a few feet away from me. Standing there, right next to the bleachers, was Tyson McGaw, who, when it came to being weird, was head and shoulders above the rest. Tyson had stringy, greasy hair, a dirty face, and his left nostril was larger than his right because he spent so much time with his finger in it. Nobody much liked Tyson. And he was definitely not the person I cared to talk to right now. Not after being humiliated by Lost in Space. Why don't you mind your own business, Tyson? People don't like you spying on them. I wasn't spying, said Tyson, mean and defensively, like he was looking to get into another one of his famous fights. Tyson was an odd bird. Half the time, he seemed kind of nerdy and off in his own greasy little world. The other half the time, he was being nasty and picking fights like he was a tough kid. The last thing I wanted on the first morning of school was to fight Tyson. Not that I couldn't beat him up. I could. He was kind of weak and scrawny. It's just that he doesn't really fight like a human. He fights more like an animal, kicking and clawing and biting. I highlighted that and put my younger brother. Because I used to beat on my younger brother all the time, because that's what you do with younger brothers. And it got to the point where he would fight back any way he could. It was like releasing a wild animal. So when I read that, I was like, that's my brother Nick. Well, spying or not, whatever you want to call it, don't do it anymore. At least not to me, because I don't like it. I got down from the bleachers and began to walk toward the school building. You really don't stand a chance, mumbled Tyson as I passed him. And how would you know? I yelled into his face. Now I was mad. You're not on the team. You're not on any team. All you do is watch everybody else's business and stick your nose in it. Don't you have any business of your own? What goes on between Austin and me has nothing to do with you. Got that? Tyson shut up. I don't think he expected me to get that mad. Just get out of my sight, Tyson. Don't talk to me unless you have something decent to say. I turned and walked toward class. Tyson mumbled something nasty beneath his breath, but I didn't want to push it any further. I ignored him and continued walking. As I got into the building, my anger shifted away from Tyson and back to Austin. What burned me most was that Tyson was probably right. Conceited, arrogant, lost in space, had all the odds in his favor. And I hated Lawson all the more for it. I began to imagine how nice it would be if there was a great conspiracy against all the lost in spaces in the world. In that spot right there that has that blank, write foreshadowing, because that'll be one of the foreshadowing clues you'll get to come back and use. Where it said, a great conspiracy against all the lost in spaces in the world, that becomes part of what we get into. Now, Now, I want y'all to know right up front that this is no namby-pamby team, said Coach Schuler as he fidgeted with his whistle. Once you're in, I don't want y'all quitting and joining Little League or a soccer club or something like that. This might not be high school, and we might not work out 5 days a week, but anyone who knows me can tell you that I expect hard work. Isn't that right, Jared? Right? I said, surprised that he called me out of everyone else. So if you don't want to be here, leave now. In the back, 2 7th graders who in one day had already gotten a reputation for being obnoxious stood and went to the door, laughing. As they left, one of them turned and said, Adios, Commandant. Some 7th graders laughed. No one who knew Coach Schuler laughed. Schuler looked at his clipboard. First of all, boys meet Mondays and Wednesdays. Girls, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Anyone who wants to can practice with both teams. As Schuler spoke, my mind began to wander. I looked around the gym. It smelled new, but didn't look much different than the old gym. You would think that when a gym burns down, a school would build a nice new-looking one. But no, this gym was a carbon copy of the old one. In each corner of the gym, a different team was meeting, and more were meeting outside. It looked like about 40 kids were going out for track, a few more boys than girls. By next week, that number would be cut in half. The coach never cut anybody. People just lost interest and dropped out. Lost in space, sat about 10 feet away from me. He sat in the middle of a crew of 7th graders, already setting himself up to be the team hero for all of the new kids to look up to. Schuler flipped the page on his clipboard. As you can see, we have a beautiful new gym. And because of last year's fires, the gym is completely off limits when a teacher isn't present. The doors will remain locked. That goes for the auditorium and just about every other unsupervised place. I know you've heard it from all of your teachers. Now you're hearing it from me. He flipped another page. Next, we have something new this year. Something I think you're going to like. A bunch of the local school districts are getting together to have a sort of mini Olympics. And yeah, there's going to be track events. There were various cheers from around the room, including my own. Now that's the good news. Bad news is, each district enters one team, which means that each school can only have one runner. Various ahs from the group. I kept quiet. I'm sure Austin did too, and I felt a knot begin to form in my stomach. Now, before we go down and assign you gym lockers, there's one more order of business. The captain, said Martin Bricker, an 8th grader who had a good chance of being captain next year, but was the only one who thought he would make it this year. That's right. This is for old team members only. Here are pencils and slips of paper. When I say so, I would like all the old team members to come up and fill out a ballot. All you have to do is put the name of the person you would like to be captain this year. Don't we get to campaign? Asked Lawson. No, we don't get a campaign, mimicked Schuler. Y'all know each other. You don't need any presidential debates. There'll be one captain for the boys and one captain for the girls. Boys vote for boys. Girls, you vote for girls. If you're not sure what you are, ask me and I'll tell you. Someone lifted Sarah Dozier's hand and she elbowed him in the ribs. All right, come on up. Here's the ballot box. Please put the pencils back in the can when you're done. I filled in Martin Bricker's name, figuring it was low class to vote for myself, and I certainly wasn't about to vote for Austin. As Austin approached the ballot box, he turned to me and smiled, that crocodile smile that screamed, "You loser," from across the room. I smiled that, "We'll see," smile right back at him. When will we have the results? Asked Martin. They'll be posted on the main bulletin board tomorrow by lunch. The group groaned. Come on, it's only one day. Now when I call your name, come on up and I'll give you your locker number. That night, Cheryl and I sat in her old treehouse, talking and trying to get my mind off of the election. I never remembered the treehouse being so small. I bet it was even too small for Randall to sit in comfortably now. Sometimes I liked growing, but at times like that, I didn't. I remember when I could lie down across the floor in the treehouse. It could fit all three of us, me, Cheryl, Randall, each in our sleeping bags late at night, telling ghost stories and drinking chocolate shakes, which were still one of my favorite foods in the world. I love those days. Now I couldn't even sit in it without bending my knees. It had been almost a year since I'd been in it. Cheryl only lived down the street, but we never had much of a reason to go up into the treehouse anymore. It was Cheryl who'd said, "Let's talk in the treehouse." I said, "Fine," figuring it would cheer me up. Now, an hour later, the twilight was more twi than light, and the early September chill had come rolling in off the ocean. What else? Keep thinking. I don't know. I can't think of any more. Don't you have any imagination? No. Yes, you do. Okay. I know. I would hang him by his toes, upside down, over a bear trap. Okay, now you're getting really gross. Well, you asked for it. Your turn. Okay, next time she sings, I would throw roses at her, like that guy did, for her to put behind her ears, only I would make sure they had lots of thorns on them. I grimaced. Your turn. I would set Austin loose in Lion Country Wild Animal Park and see how fast he runs. Next. Ooh, fishes. Let's see. I would fill her little lunchbox thermos with hydrochloric acid. Not fair. I said that one at the wedding. Well, then how about a king cobra in her lunchbox? Circle that. That's foreshadowing also. No, wait, I've got one for you, I said. Why don't we get her a nice date with Tyson McGaw? Oh, that's a fate worse than death. We both laughed good and hard, just trying to imagine Rebecca and slimy Tyson McGaw together. What a match. I can't believe we're really this nasty. Isn't it fun? I guess it was. It was sort of like watching those horror movies. Sure, they're sick and gross and bloody and all that, but everyone still loves them, right? I mean, it's not like we're really doing anything to them. We're not really mean and terrible. It's just a game. Everybody has someone that really irks them, and there's nothing wrong with pretending, right? Wait a second. I just had a brainstorm. We'll pay some bozo to pretend to teach Austin to walk on hot coals. And when he finally goes for it, he'll burn off his feet. So much for running. You're awful. Then she stopped laughing and thought for a moment. Without the sound of our voices, the night seemed very quiet. I don't think I heard as much as one cricket. Hey, wouldn't it be weird if any of those things actually happened to Austin or Rebecca? Like somebody up there was listening? Circle that. That's also going to be foreshadowing. And there I'm going to stop with you. So I think our checkpoint is going to be... What is it? Right around there. I think we should be able to do okay to get some reading. You're going to have reading on Monday night, because we're going to get through like another chunk of pages on Monday. And then you're going to have to read to get to page 50 by, or maybe I think it's 67. Let's have you turn to page 68. And you're going to write Tuesday 12/8. Because that's where you have to be by Tuesdays 12/8. Where it says spiders and snakes on page 68.
Tuesday?
Tuesday 12/8. So you have to be there by that time.
Whoa. Page 60.
68. It says spiders and snakes.
Oh my.
And we'll try to get some more reading done on Monday if we can, but most likely I'll send out a message today and give you guys an idea. Alright, take off. See you later.
I can't take off.
Some of you